Greetings everyone and happy Thanksgiving. Well, hope you all had a good turkey day today. I know I certainly did. And well, let's continue our look at Game of Thrones Season 1 with Episode 8, The Pointy End. So, here we go. Beginning in the Mountains of the Moon, as Tyrion and Bronn head towards Tywin Lannister's camp, they are surrounded by one of the barbarian hill tribes of the Vale. Tyrion convinces them to serve as his escorts by promising them gold, weapons, and an army to help them seize the Vale of Arryn. Tywin is displeased, but agrees to keep Tyrion's promises if the hill tribes join the fight against the Starks. The tribesmen agree, but want Tyrion to follow them as insurance, much to Tyrion's discomfort. Meanwhile, in the Eyrie, Catelyn confronts her sister Lysa about the letter Catelyn received regarding events at King's Landing. Lysa refuses to send troops to help the Starks against the Lannisters because she only cares for the safety of her son Robin. A disgusted Catelyn leaves the Eyrie. Meanwhile, in the north, after receiving his sister's letter, Maester Luwin decides that Cersei is manipulating Sansa. Robb calls his family's bannermen to war against the Lannisters, much to Theon Greyjoy's pleasure. After gaining the respect of Stark bannerman Lord Greatjon Umber and leaving Bran in charge of Winterfell, Robb and his army marched south. Meanwhile, in the Riverlands, the Stark forces, having made camp at the Riverlands, are joined by Catelyn. During Council of War, at which Robb ponders whether to attack Tywin's or Jaime's forces, his men present him with a captured Lannister scout. Robb decides to let him go with a message to Tywin that winter is coming for him, but tricks him into thinking Robb is sending his entire army of 20,000 men to attack Tywin. Ooh, smart man. Meanwhile, at the Wall, Jon Snow's samurai party returns to the Wall after finding 2 frozen corpses. Lord Commander Mormont recognizes them as Benjen Stark's fellow rangers and orders their bodies examined. Sam points out that there is no sign of decay on their corpses, even though they have apparently been dead for weeks. Later, Mormont informs Jon about events in the south and warns him to keep his commitment to the Night's Watch. Jon loses his temper after Sir Alliser Thorne mocks Eddard Stark's treason. Enraged, Jon charges at Thorne with a knife, but is held back by his companions and is confined to his quarters by Mormont. Later that night, Jon's direwolf ghost behaves strangely, prompting Jon to investigate Mormont's quarters. As Jon enters, he is attacked by one of the dead rangers, returning to life as a wight. The undead monster is immune to Jon's sword, continuing to attack even after being run through and losing an arm. As Mormont enters, Jon throws a lantern at the wight, setting the wight ablaze and finally destroying it. The next morning, Mormont and the Night's Watch burn the 2 bodies, and Sam tells them that he read that corpses touched by White Walkers are reanimated and can only be killed by fire. Ah, there you go. Meanwhile, in Lazar, Khal Drogo's Khalasar attacks the Lazarine village in order to gain funds for the ships they need to invade the 7 Kingdoms. Daenerys Targaryen is dismayed by their brutality, and after seeing Dothraki raiders gather several village women for use as sex slaves, she orders Sir Jorah Mormont and her bodyguards to claim the women as hers. Challenged in front of Drogo, she defends her actions as her right as Khaleesi, and demands that the raiders marry rather than enslave the women they desire. Impressed, Drogo sides with his wife, but the leading raider, Mago, is unimpressed and challenges the call to a duel. Mago is swiftly killed by Drogo, but not before inflicting a deep wound. Daenerys worries about the wound, and the Khal reluctantly allows one of the spared villagers, a healer by the name of Mirri Maz Duur, to treat his wounds. This attracts further ire from the Dothraki, who derisively called the woman Magay, a witch. Finally, in King's Landing, after Ned Stark is imprisoned following his failed attempt to arrest Joffrey and Cersei Lannister, the Lannisters move against the rest of the Stark household. While Ned's eldest daughter Sansa is detained, Arya is able to escape after a fencing teacher, Syrio Forel, holds off the Lannister men. As Arya runs outside looking for her sword, a stable boy tries to detain her for the Queen, but she fatally stabs him before fleeing the castle. Cersei convinces Sansa that to save her father's life, she must write a letter to Robb imploring him to come to King's Landing and swear fealty to Joffrey. Later, Joffrey and Cersei hold court, where they reward Janos Slynt, the captain of the City Watch, with a lordship, while Tywin Lannister is named the new Hand of the King. Joffrey also relieves Sir Barristan Selmy as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard and gives his post to Jaime Lannister. Selmy is offered a castle and land in recognition of his service, but a furious Selmy, regarding the offer as an insult, throws his sword at Joffrey's feet and storms out in disgust. That's what I would have done. Sansa takes the opportunity to publicly plead for her father's life, and Joffrey agrees to show mercy if Ned will confess to treason and accept him as the rightful king. Yeah, something tells me that ain't gonna be happening there, buckaroo. Anyway, let's look at the production elements of the story. The episode was written by George R.R. Martin, the author of the book A Game of Thrones, on which the series is based. Content from this episode is derived from chapters 43, 51 to 54, 55 to 58, and 61. Tyrion 6, Arya 4, Sansa 4, Jon 7, Bran 6, Catelyn 8, Tyrion 7, Sansa 5, the early part of Eddard 15, and Daenerys 7. Martin has extensive experience in television writing, but it had been a decade since he had produced a teleplay. He said he found writing this episode very easy because of his familiarity with the characters in the story, and the hardest part was, quote, getting used to the new screening software that he had to use. Martin delivered the first draft of the script to the show's executive producers David Benioff and D.B. Weiss on May 1st, 2010, admitting that it was probably, quote, too long and too expensive. In fact, one scene that Martin wrote, Robb Stark calling his father's Northern Bannermen, with a montage of 8 different castles receiving the summons and writing out, was deemed impossible to film. The first scenes depicting Tyrion descending with Bronn from the Mountains of the Moon and encountering the clansmen were not written by Martin. Since they were originally intended to be part of Episode 7, they were written by that episode's authors, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. As often happens in TV production, the scene was moved from one episode to another during editing. The Pointy End includes the first appearance of 2 significant recurring characters in the book series. Clive Mantle as the Northern Bannerman Lord Jon Umber, known as the Grey Jon due to his size, and Ian Gelder as Lord Tywin's brother and right-hand man, Sir Kevan Lannister. Interior scenes were filmed at the Painthall Studio in Belfast, including all the scenes in the Red Keep and Winterfell. The exterior of the Stark and Lannister war camps were shot on location in the Castle Ward estate, near the village of Strangford. Ollie's castle in the estate doubled as the ruined remains of one of Mo Caelin's towers, seen when Catelyn and Roderick joined Robb's army. The scenes at the village of the Landmen that is sacked by the Dothraki were filmed towards the end of October 2010 in Malta, at the farming town of Manicata. For the exterior of the Red Keep, where Arya recovers her sword needle, San Alton Palace was used. The episode was dedicated to the memory of Ralph Vicinaza. He had been one of the co-executive producers attached to Game of Thrones, and died in his sleep from a cerebral aneurysm on September 25th, 2010. Vicinaza, I guess that's how it's pronounced, sorry, was a literary agent who handled George R.R. Martin's foreign language rights and, with Vince Gerardis, was one of the co-founders of the management company created by, which aimed at developing feature films and television shows based on the works of Vicinaza's clients. He was instrumental in bringing Martin's work to the screen, recommending the books to David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, and leading the negotiations with HBO. He died a few days after HBO greenlighted the series. Aww. So overall, there's a lot of stuff going on in this episode, but hey, it does its job pretty well, and the introduction of characters was actually pretty good. So, overall, I give The Pointy End 3 Iron Thrones out of 5. Well, join me next week as we take a look at Baelor. So, until then, in the words of House Stark, winter is coming.